Yeah, and there's so many artists that have similar stories, not exactly the same. Like as I said, I was in mid contract, and we usually do a run of 5 concerts, and we had performed our Wednesday night concert, and then our Thursday night concert was actually across the state in Naples, across the state from Miami, which is where the performances are mainly housed. So we did that Thursday evening performance in Naples, which was a great crowd, a lot of folks there. We had our guest conductor, Ragnar Bolin, who's the conductor of the Swedish Radio Choir and the San Francisco Symphony Chorus. And unbeknownst to us, while we were performing, our staff and our executive director, they were meeting and talking behind the scenes, going, okay, do we make this call? How do we do this? And they told us right after the concert, hey, we're canceling the next 3 nights of concerts, and we have already started to work on getting your flights back. So the next day, everybody was on various and sundry flights, but they did get everybody home. Ragnar was trying to get from Miami back to Stockholm, which I think he eventually did, and he's still there. So it was, I give kudos to the organization for getting us all taken care of. But then it was kind of like, well, you're on your own. So good luck.
What do you do now? So
Yeah.
I actually got very disgruntled. I was just like, I'm not singing anymore. I'm a non-essential employee in the world.
That's
You
that's
know?
our own lens, though. I mean, ultimately, yes, we're not we could be considered not essential in the immediate forecast, but there's never been a time in the history of recorded history for humanity that there wasn't and there were not artists. So those that is to me, it's essential. It's going to happen no matter what. It may be different, unfortunately, but we'll see.
I don't know. I think that people are going to be so excited when they experience a live performance for the first time since this whole thing started. I think they're going to realize how much they've missed it. And I think
Agreed.
explode again. I think people are just going to be chomping at the bit to go to performer, to go to
I
perform.
I think that's true. We have a small litmus test here. One of the groups I work with is the Long Beach Camerata Singers, and of course, it's a community choir, but has a paid core of professional singers within the group. And just like every other organization, we just had to cancel the rest of that season, and then we were trying to discuss what are we going to do now, as an organization, what do we offer? And we felt it was two fronts. One was just an obligation to create art, and as you said, people are probably chomping the bit for something. How do we do this? Maybe not in a virtual format. What were our options? And so we came up with a series called the Front Porch Concerts, in which it's only 4 singers, and we were committed as an organization to try to continue to pay our professional singers because obviously they were going to be hurting. Um, and so we have a set of 2 different quartets that alternate different weekends and places, and the performances are 4 singers on mic, socially distanced, outdoors in kind of people's voluntary front yards. We had no
Oh,
idea what it would be like. It has been, we have to limit the reservations, obviously, because we don't want 500 people suddenly sitting in a yard. The support has been unbelievable. And I think it's indicative of what you just said. People are starving for
yeah.
anything. And it was so successful. I mean, we made a budget commitment that we were just going to do it at probably a revenue loss, and instead, over the course, and we've been doing them, and these were kind of general ones, meaning music of all kind of periods: musical theater, jazz, classical, a little bit of everything. Singers would sing solos, ensemble works. Uh, People that came, which they would bring their own chairs. They have to have a mask on. They kind of sit spaced out. We work out agreements of where the property is. We've received more money in donations than it has cost us to actually underwrite the events. So we've made money on something that we thought we were going to lose. We've been able to pay singers, and then now for the holidays, we're doubling down and doing more of these. But it's the only way we can do it. So it's outside, and it's not ideal for us as performers, but it is something that people have enjoyed.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And these are the kind of successes that I love hearing, with regard to performing and live performance. That's just, uh,
Well, and we're fortunate. I'm fortunate here in Southern California that our weather is such that we don't really have to even consider that. Where if I was back in Florida or Miami, I mean, weather is so unpredictable. Even in the winter months, it could rain in the middle of the afternoon. And so here we don't really even have to worry about that. So we can set up outside, have a sound check, never have to worry about snow or rain, and that has been helpful. I know you can't do an outdoor concert probably in Minneapolis right now, so we're fortunate here in Southern California to be able to do that.
Totally. Oh my gosh. And I actually just a couple weeks ago booked 9 performances through the end of or the middle of April, from December to April. So this is like a dream come true, to get to actually perform my shows and in a live setting.
Yeah.
So I have been doing this series. I'll just tell you a little bit about what I'm doing. I'm just kind of interviewing my friends.
Well, you have some. I'll take myself out, but you have some wonderful friends, and you have had a wonderful and interesting career of performing all over the place in many different venues. So I imagine your friend circle is quite astute.
It is, and this includes you. And I'm so happy to have you on. Thank you so much for taking some time out to do this with me today. This is awesome.
My
So
pleasure.
and I've always had the utmost respect for everything that you've always done and what you've always brought to the table, and how much I've learned from you over the years, singing under your baton and by your side as well.
That's true. That's right.
Yeah, in the olden days, the Stone Age of the
We all
University of South Florida days.
pre-recorded history. We call that pre-recorded history.
Right, exactly. There you go. There you go. So, yeah, lots happened between then and now, including a crazy pandemic. So I'm just kind of like, you know, just asking all my friends. I would love to just, put a little hope out there into the world that this is going to be okay, that we have a career ahead of us. This isn't the end, you
Yeah.
know?
Well, I think, when I referred earlier that there are some wonderful opportunities that have occurred because of the pandemic. The pandemic will end at some point. We have to be careful about this. It's not what anyone thought. Well, this is going to last a couple months. We know this is a long haul. It might be still another 5, 6 months, but there will be a point that this ends.
Yeah.
And one of the things that has happened, and I think you're contributing to this, is that we've all had a chance to actually put a pause on our hectic performance schedule, um, and stop and either consider what it is that we have done, meaning how have our lives, how can you evaluate our performing lives, and considerations for the future. And so having conversations like you're created through your school and through what you're doing here, these will become a repository of information that people are going to lean on for years to come. They can go back and go, hey, look, there's no way I could have afforded to fly to Los Angeles and talk to James, or there's no way I could have flown to Stockholm and talked to Ragnar Bolin, but I did it this way. And here is a recording of this conversation. So I think that there's going to be an interesting digital library of information that comes from us artists about many aspects of our lives. And so you're contributing to that through these conversations, I'm sure.
Oh, thank you. Well, I'm just getting started.
Good. Well,
I don't even know what I'm doing yet. Just, hope and a prayer.
necessity is the mother of invention, and that has been true in all existence of humanity. When something has to happen, somebody creates it, and they make it happen. So that's what you're doing.
Yeah, I think, like you said, I love what you just said about, you went from saying something about pre-recorded history, and here we are literally making history, recording all this, and then, like you said, creating a repository library
That's right.
of people's experiences during this whole thing, and the amount of hope, but the amount of like experience and intelligence and education and the humanness of all of this that we all carry, but also these burdens that we're carrying too. It's just we're gonna look back on this and say, whew.
Yeah, no doubt. And I would never hope that a future generation has to go through what we're going through. But if and when they do, there will be these, again, digital monuments of things they can look back and go, okay, how did that generation handle this? Obviously, we keep making reference to the Spanish flu epidemic that happened over 100 years ago. Then there was less information. I mean, there's written information. We have some statistics and data, but from this particular one, there'll be more about what kind of things we did, how we reinvented ourselves. And I think for all of us that get to perform for another, hopefully 40 years of our lives, you and I, maybe more for you, but
We're on
that
the same page.
we that we understand the fragility of all this now. I mean, the fact that the things that we've taken for granted, like, oh, there'll always be concerts, there's always going to be these things. That's not true.
Yeah.
The desire for those things will always be there, but the ability to do them may not. And so we have to safeguard it and care for it in a more precise manner than we perhaps have done in the past.
Mm. Yeah. Oh. I mean, this definitely teaches all of us not to take it for granted, you know?
Absolutely.
And for a lot of the young singers that I really want to talk to in all of this and, give them a lot of encouragement and hope, especially high schoolers, at maybe the performing arts high school, which you used to teach at. Um, I don't want them to be scared to get out there and do this,
You're
you know?
exactly right. That's so important.
Yeah.
That's so important. Yeah. And we're um, all of us, meaning even these high school singers, you, I, everyone that's professional singing or singer or in the arts community, we're essentially astronauts at this moment, and we've been dropped on a foreign planet. And so we're having to figure out, all right, wait a minute, what are our surroundings? How can we redo this? And with hope, everything will kind of return to normal eventually, but there will be things that are not the same. And we as astronauts are making those and taking those first footsteps into
Mm.
what will be the new world for us as singers and performers. And I think that there will be a moment. You said this earlier. There will be a moment where there's going to, I think, be this white hot intensity of people just wanting to consume art, and in the kind of old fashioned way, the nostalgic aspect of it. And we have to be ready to capture that moment, but then also able to, what are the new ways that we can do this? Like, if
Yeah.
I can't show up to your lesson, can we Zoom this lesson as quickly as possible? And how effective can a Zoom lesson be? So these are things that we're learning as singers. Like, how can I interact with you through a digital format and it still be worthy and worthwhile? And I'm having to do the same thing teaching conductors. And there are some pluses. There are some. It will never replace live music making,
Right.
without a doubt. And I don't think anyone thinks that. But what we may be able to do is take what we did before and add a component that we've never thought about and actually cast the net a little wider than we have in the past. And that's my hope through all of this.
Yeah. I love that sentiment. Actually, that right there is, what I think we've expanded ourselves now out of necessity,
Right.
but in such a way that can be very, very, very beneficial and positively impactful to it. We already all have the, live performance experience behind us. Now we have all kind of convened in this digital space, this digital arena where we're able to capture, you know,
Yeah.
new ways of doing things. It's hard to check, like when I'm teaching a voice lesson online or on Zoom or whatever, it is really hard because you have to like pull back to see the full body to
Yeah.
make sure they're standing right or whatever, So I have to sometimes, in order to see what's happening here, make sure that they're close enough to the video, but then I can't see what's happening here,
Yeah.
So there's that
Of
little
course.
aspect of it.
There's definitely issues with it, no doubt.
Yeah.
And as I said, I don't it's never going to replace uh what we've done in the past. And something you just referred to, the high school singers that may not have as much performing experience as you and I have and our colleagues. And I'm same thing when I'm working with young conductors right now. The school at which I teach, UCLA, we're all virtual. So those applied musical experiences, which is that's the environment that we try to create for our students, where they actually physically have to do this with our mentorship. And we need to, as soon as possible, get those opportunities back up and running, so this next generation of singers is not behind. They need to be able to walk out on a stage and go, all right, how do I use my voice in this room?
Mhm.
Because using it for a mic, now that's one thing that has been helpful. I've been having to do a lot of recordings for virtual for choir situations, and my ability to use a mic and the technique of mic usage, which is something I knew a lot less about than other singers.
Mm.
Now I'm a little more knowledgeable about that. But
Awesome.
we Yeah, but we need to take, as soon as we can, get these younger singers out singing again, which means we may have to step aside at a few times, say, all right, we're gonna let you do this because we've done it before and you haven't, and you need to do this
Absolutely.
to learn how to use their voices.
Yeah. And it's funny that you brought up mic technique because I just had another interview earlier today, and that was one of the things that I hadn't discussed with anybody is mic technique. And it's something that a lot of people don't take into consideration if you do an unamplified kind of performance. You're not used to singing into a microphone, and so for a lot of us, that is something. And I see you have your microphone, and you
Yep.
know, this is something that a lot of us are starting to realize. Oh my gosh, that's something I didn't know anything about, or I had
Absolutely.
no idea how to work a Zoom call. Now I do.
Right. And even these front porch concerts I was talking to you about, each singer is on a mic, and we have a board op that's running a board and kind of helping with balances. But so many singers that are like you and I, that went through a relatively traditional Western classical training program. Mic is something we never talk about. And when we get singers outside of a microphone, there are four of them, we still want this to sound balanced and beautiful and natural. It's just with the aid of the microphone. So many singers don't understand the idea of directionality and how that affects your mic and how far you're away. And they're relying entirely on the engineer. And that needs to meet in the middle. The singer has to have and I'm learning this myself, so I'm learning it on the fly. But how you use the mic, how you interact with that mic, is what ends up being revealing a beautiful performance to the audience. And so, what you don't want is the mic to be the hindrance. The mic is the aid. It's the helper. And so many singers, they just don't think of it as a real thing, and they stand too far away, or they're moving their head in a way that you lose the beauty of the voice. I'm like, well, let's talk about this. Let's
Hold
just
it down here.
right. It's like, this is not really helping anyone. The engineer can't help you if the mic is so far away that they can't actually bring up the amp. So anyway, it's another one of the interesting opportunities I think has happened for some of us, is the
Yeah,
education of electronic devices.
I love it. Yeah, you can't do anything without good sound, and in this case, if the sound's not good because it's not amplified properly, then your performance is lost. So
100% true.